It is good to have you all here. Just a reminder, yet again, I know we just mentioned it, but next week there will be three services. Do you guys remember the times? When's the first service? 8. When's the second service? 9:30. When's the third service? 11. All right, now I had you say that because I forgot. No, I'm just kidding. But we definitely want to remember. So next week, three services. I'm excited for Easter. What a wonderful day. We have been going through our series called Surrender, where we're looking at the calling and the cost when we follow Jesus. Every time, we've talked about this in detail, every time we see God move in somebody's life in a significant way, it comes with a calling. And every time God gives us a calling, it comes with a cost. The calling comes with a cost. The calling comes with a... Week number 1, we looked at Paul. When Saul became Paul, his yes. What did his yes to the Lord cost him? It cost him worldly prestige. It cost him massive amounts of influence. He was incredibly successful and rising through the ranks rapidly. And what did it also cost him? Well, it cost him a kind of call that he wouldn't have wanted, which was a calling to the Gentiles, the very people he would have seen as enemies. Week number 2, we talked about Mary, the mother of Jesus. She had nothing. No power, no prestige, no wealth. All she could give God was a faithful yes. And what we find with Mary is her calling was this nurture, maternal, take care of Jesus, even some of the other disciples. And as I made clear that week, I believe we need to revalue the role of mom. The maternal role of God is a call of God, and it has divine creation. God is for the family, and Mother Mary and her gentle, caring nurture counts too. We talked about that week number 2. Week number 3, we talked about John the Baptizer. You can sum his whole story up in his own words. John the Baptizer says, "He must increase and I must decrease." After we looked at John the Baptizer, we took a look at Rebecca. And Rebecca, I think this is one of the hardest ones. Rebecca could sense the call of God and even received his promises, but what she had to let go of was the outcome. And I bet, as we talked about that week, I bet there are people in this room, you believe that God has put a calling on your heart, and it has not been realized yet. You've received a calling. You believe God spoke to you, but it has not come to pass yet. And one of the hardest things that we have to put in God's hands is the outcome and what it will look like and when it will happen. Then after that, we looked at Esther. This was last week. Esther, what did she have to do? Well, she had to reveal her identity in the secular world. So many of us, we have jobs. We're going a million miles an hour. We talked about this in detail last week. From the bus stop to your office to even your high school or college you attend, there will come a moment when you can no longer hide your identity. That can be hard, to let the world know where your heart is and what you stand for. The calling and the cost. This week we're going to look at Daniel. This is one of my favorite Bible stories, one that many of you studied all the way back into Sunday school as a kid. And man, I love the way Sunday school softens it, because this stuff is actually really heavy when you go back and read it again as an adult. Have you often read the Bible and thought, wow, this is not the way I imagined it when I was a little kid? Especially the Old Testament, man. There are parts in the Old Testament you're like, whoa, they left that part out. Daniel is fantastic. I love this story. So it is about 2,500-ish years ago. And the people of God have done what the people of God have done so many times. And even today we can do this, where we go through a really hard season in life. Maybe you have had a loved one that's wrestled with a disease. Maybe you have struggled with mental health issues. Maybe you've wrestled with a financial hardship. You go through something difficult, and then it's like, God, if you would please just move. I will be faithful to you. I will honor you. If you would just please bless me, I'm gonna give my life to you. I'm gonna give the blessings that you give me back to you. And then the moment God restores you, really quickly you're back to your old ways. That is the story of the people. I'm reading through the Old Testament right now with my 2 older sons. And as we're going through it, it's just wild. In fact, one of my boys sent me a text message the other day, and he was like, Dad, why can't these people get it? And it's like, son, why can't we get it? So bad we want God to rescue us from these hardships. So then when God does pour his blessing out on us, so quickly we're back to our old ways. We let the world begin to influence us. And this gets so bad by the time Daniel rolls around that God allows Babylon to come in and exile the people. So he marches off as Babylon comes in, takes over the Hebrew people. He takes some of the primary young leaders. Listen, the way Babylon worked is they would pillage, yes, they would burn, but their primary goal was to literally abduct the youngest and the most influential people in a kingdom. So then they march them away, right? So they take them back to Babylon, and you guys all know the story. Eventually, Nebuchadnezzar, he creates this 9-story, massive building that they're all supposed to worship at. Now, if you know your Babylonian history, a lot of my education is in the history side. I love this stuff. But you will know that they were a people that worshiped a lot of gods. You would know that they worshiped Marduk, Ishtar, Nabu, and others. But the image that was built in this field of gathering, most scholars believe it was more like a political image, maybe an image of Nebuchadnezzar himself. And this actually begs a really interesting question. Why would he create this place of worship that actually maybe wasn't an image of one of these primary gods? This is, are you ready for it? It is a political statue that they are all bowing down to. Why? Well, as you know the story, this statue is created. We'll circle back around to that idea in a minute. This statue is created, and then all of the people are brought out. And you got to remember, this isn't just the Hebrew people. These are the conquered people from Babylon. And they're all brought together, and they're all brought to this field, and they're all supposed to worship. And then as the music starts, this is actually a field where a lot of secular events would take place within the greater Babylonian Empire. And as they're worshiping, the music is going on, there are these 3 people that refuse to participate. And the way I imagine it in my mind, it's like the old flannel graph Sunday school classes, has all these people bowing down, and then there's the 3 people standing there. They just refuse. They won't do it. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Well, the people point them out to the king. The king turns to them and he's like, hey, what's the deal? And they say, we refuse to bow down and worship this way. We refuse to bow down, not only refuse to worship your gods, plural, but we also refuse to worship this way. Now, I want to give credit where credit's due. The first time I stumbled across this idea was by an author of the name Dr. Timothy Keller. Anybody here ever read Dr. Keller's books? He's got some great stuff. And he wrote a book called Counterfeit Gods. Anybody ever here ever read the book Counterfeit Gods? Fantastic book if you've not read it. Dr. Keller in the book Counterfeit Gods was the first one that kind of made this clear to me. The way the Hebrew is written, it is not worship their gods this way. It is worship this gods or this way. And that's an important distinction. After they refuse to worship their gods and worship that way, Nebuchadnezzar gets really angry. Let's go back to the text that Deborah read just a minute ago. It says, then Nebuchadnezzar was filled with fury, and the expression of his face was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He ordered the furnace heated 7 times more than it usually was heated. And he ordered some of the mighty men of his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and cast them into the burning fiery furnace. Then these men were bound in their cloaks, their tunics, their hats, and their other garments, and they were thrown into the burning fiery furnace because the king's order was urgent, and the furnace overheated. The flame of the fire killed those men who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they fell bound into the burning fiery furnace. And then King Nebuchadnezzar was astonished and rose up in haste, and he declared to his counselors, "Did we not cast 3 men bound into the fire?" They answered and said to the king, "True, O king." And he answered and said, "But I see 4 men unbound and walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt, and their appearance and the appearance of the 4th is like the son of the gods." A couple things I want to point out from this. The first one is the book of Daniel unfolds in Babylon. Just a quick recap of where we've been. The book of Daniel unfolds in Babylon after God's people were conquered and carried into exile. This is so important, Babylon didn't destroy their victims, it aimed to reshape them. Babylon took the most promising young leaders and immersed them in a new language, immersed these young new leaders in a new education, and immersed them in a new way of life. The goal was to make the next generation of a conquered group want to be Babylonian. A couple of years ago, I was meeting, as you know, the greater Trinity movement. We've launched a number of cool ministries over the years. And I was talking with some of the refugees when we planted with Pastor Com Tinuk. And Com was sharing about the difficulties of these Christian refugees in the United States. All right, you ready for this? Don't miss this. One of the refugees I was talking with was saying that they feel like they're losing their children to culture. And this Christian refugee in the United States, was sharing that their kids no longer want to dress. They no longer want to participate in the activities of the group that they were with coming over, and they don't even want to speak their language anymore. And so I asked this refugee, I was like, what is the biggest issue? I mean, if you could kind of pin it down, what would it be? And are you ready for this? He said, emotionally, my children just want to be accepted. And they're willing to let go of their identity to do it. You guys, there is so much cultural pressure for us to participate in society. And I think maybe even a really important question as we're looking at the younger Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, as we're looking at the Babylonian tactics to actually take a people group over, it is fitting for us to ask this question: where are you letting Babylonian culture shape your children? Where are you letting Babylonian culture shape what they love and what they want to be? Where are you letting Babylonian culture shape your children? You see, that culture is so brilliant. Those people were unbelievably good at what they did. They knew that the best way to conquer a people wasn't by torture, though there was some of that. It was actually to get their children to want to be Babylonian. That's the best way to conquer a people. What is shaping your kids? Where are you letting Babylon in to shape what you love, what you prioritize, what you do, what you view as the good, what you should wear, how you should spend your money? Where are you letting Babylon in? The Babylonian Empire was subtly brilliant in how it handled religion. It was pluralistic, right? They didn't say, this is so important, they didn't say don't worship your gods. They said this is how Babylon culture worships. Do our rhythms. That's the first step. So the first step in getting these people to want to participate in Babylonian culture and get the children of the conquered people group to want to be Babylonian is not to come at the gods that they're worshiping. It's pluralistic. Worship whatever God you want. All we ask is that you do worship rhythms our way. Do our rhythms. Be open-minded. Be okay with other people worshiping different around you. And you have to remember how this stood in contrast to the Jewish people, right? The Shema that was woven into their culture, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Ve'ahavta Adonai Elohecha, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. They are a monotheistic, we believe that God stands alone above all else. And we give everything to the King of Kings. And so Babylon's war against them isn't saying, don't worship your God. The first step in eroding their faith is saying, just do Babylonian rhythms. Just do it our way. They didn't say, don't worship your gods. They said, this is how Babylonian culture worships. Do our rhythms. Are we aware? And this is so hard it's so hard. We just have to acknowledge how hard it is to see where culture has gobbled up what we consider normal. Are we aware of where the enemy is quietly stealing our worship, whispering, I'm not asking you to reject God, just to join the rest of society in our worship rhythms. Just worship like us. I was out visiting another one of the ministries that we helped launch a few years back, One Church with Andy, which is so fun. I love Andy so much. I got to spend quite a bit of time with him this last week. And when we were first launching One Church, when that was first starting, I was out there visiting one of the early weeks, and I remember pulling off the exit. For those that, some of you I know were out there with them too, but I remember pulling off the exit, and as we were coming down, there's the divide back when they were in their old building, and you can go left or you can kind of go right once you come off the main road there. And I noticed when I came off the exit with my wife and kids, there was this huge line of cars, and I thought, this is amazing. Look at all these people that are coming to help One Church get off the ground. If you know the area or have driven to his church, you already know where this is going. So I'm pulling up and I'm waiting in line and we're coming closer. And then as I'm getting closer, I'm realizing Andy's church is to the right and to the left are all the sports fields. Oh, I'm so sorry. I am going to offend somebody today. Pastor loves you. Are you ready? You ready? And as I'm watching all these people left, all the way through. And then it's like, there goes one right. And like, oh, Andy's got one family, yay. And then another one goes, and of course we go too, and we go over to Andy's place. And so I go over to the church, and I walk inside, and I ask them, like, what's going on over there, man? Everybody's going off the other direction. They're like, that's where all the soccer fields are. All right, now imagine with me if I could stand at the soccer field. I mean, clearly this is not a good idea, though. This would be super fascinating. Stand at the edge of the entrance of the soccer fields, and I have like a little Barna research tab, and I'm like, just out of curiosity, we're trying to figure out what people actually believe. And I would just ask, are you a Christian? Yes or no? I bet, statistically speaking, most of those people would say, yes. They would say yes. And here's the really wild thing. As I was doing that, I guarantee people would be offended that I was doing it, and they would call me legalistic. Just for asking the question. And I'm not even telling them what to do. I'm not saying wrong or right, good or bad. I'm merely asking the question. And they would call me legalistic. I am certain that at least some would do that. Notice in the text what is actually happening. And man, Dr. Keller does a great job pointing this out. The king isn't merely threatened by their belief in God. That's not the issue. It's pluralistic. Believe whatever God you want. We have space for all kinds of gods. You can worship however you want, right? Or you can worship whoever you want. But notice what happens. He becomes a tyrant, not because they worship Adonai. He becomes a tyrant when they refuse to surrender their rhythms. That's when he becomes a tyrant. He knows that he can't come directly at their belief. He has to come at their rhythms. That's where he's got to go to war first. He has to come at their rhythms. The king isn't merely threatened by their belief in God. He becomes a tyrant when they refuse to surrender their rhythms of worship. This happens over and over again in the book of Daniel. Once you learn to look at what's happening culturally, you're going to see it all through the book. Daniel's prayer rhythms will cost him a night in a lion's den. He's been praying to Adonai all the way along. But when he refuses to surrender his rhythms, yet again, the enemy often works by, okay, here, hang with me. The enemy often works not by sudden collapse, but by slow erosion, starving devotion until it. That's why there is always spiritual warfare around prioritizing worship and prayer. And this is it. You ready for it? This is it. This is it, man. It applied back then. It applies to us today. And there's so much spiritual warfare around it. There's so much shame around it. There's so much attention on it. And it's almost like we're not even allowed to talk about it. It's become too sacred to talk about it. Interesting. People are wildly offended if you just ask questions about it. Interesting. The sinister whisper of the enemy will be and has always been when slowly conquering a people. Don't be legalistic. Don't be legalistic. What's your problem? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, what is your problem? We're not telling you not to worship Adonai. We're just telling you to at least start by worshiping where we worship, and worship in the fields that we worship in, and worship the way we worship, and worship to our music. Listen, why, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, why do you have to be so legalistic? The sinister whisper of the enemy will be, don't be legalistic. No one is saying don't worship God. Just relax on your worship rhythms. Join the crowd. Try life our way. Babylon knew it must get young, abducted people to live their secular rhythms before they actually become rhythms first. Rhythms first. Rhythms first. Rhythms first. I cannot tell you how much there is going to be so much spiritual warfare around your worship rhythms. So much spiritual warfare around your worship rhythms. And you want to know something else? It's always been that way. It's always been that way. So much spiritual warfare around your worship rhythms. I'm going to invite the team up, and I'll be done here in just a few minutes. It was the 1950s. And there was a psychologist by the name of Solomon Asch who ran a simple experiment. It was actually kind of fascinating. I love this stuff. Anybody here like to read research? I do. I got a really nerdy side. And the experiment basically went like this. It's a social experiment. And what they did is they had lines basically like on a wall. And the lines were shorter and longer. Real difficult, right? Shorter lines, longer lines. And then they had on the other side, shorter lines, longer lines. And all they asked people to do was just match the lines up. Can you just connect the longer line, show me where the other longer line is, and the shorter line is show me where the other shorter lines is, and in the median line, match it to the other medium line. But what the researcher did was he planted everybody in the room to agree on the same false connections except for one person. So in the room, everybody's going, oh yeah, this line matches this shorter line. That's it. That's the one that's right. They're not saying it that way. They're going, this line matches this line, and they don't actually match. And as another person is like, oh yeah, that's right. I think that's the right one. And then somebody else is like, that's it. I think it's the right one. Did you know over 75% of the time, the person who wasn't in on it would say things like, oh yeah, I think I see it too. And the summary of this research project is actually quite fascinating. The power of the culture that you put yourself in. Listen, when you give, this is a quote from one of the fathers, church fathers, when you give your children over to Rome, stop being surprised when they come back Roman. When you give your children over to Babylon, stop being surprised when they come back Babylonian. This experiment, it got retested in a different way a number of years later. So this is 2011. There was a project done by Oxford University Press that was published in 2011, and it was on premarital sexual activity in American universities. What a wild thing to... Hey, you ready? You ready for this? You ready for this? They took two groups of people, ages 18 to 23, young men, two groups of young men, ages 18 to 23. And the first group, they tried to identify people that stated that they had beliefs that believed in traditional sexual values. So like grew up in a home that had traditional sexual values. We want to wait until marriage. We value it as something sacred and special and spiritual. And then they took another group that identified as not having the same value system. So their stated beliefs are completely different on how they view human sexuality. Based on their upbringing, and this is self-disclosure, right? So based on their upbringing and how they identify. Here's the common bond. They're all tossed into the same 18 to 23-year-old university setting. How those young men practice sexuality was almost indifferent between the two groups. And they practiced sexuality as if it didn't have spiritual value or meaning. But this is where it gets even weirder. Even though they would self-disclose that they were participating in sexual activity that didn't line up with their traditional values, they would still self-state that that's what they believe. Because their culture, the culture we are in, is so powerful, it will shape how you actually believe. And man, Nebuchadnezzar, and you got to remember, so like Babylon is a massive empire. Well, Daniel is there. Persia's going to take it over. I mean, like these are the most powerful influencers of the world in their time. And they knew if they were to come straight at your belief in Adonai, it wouldn't work. You'd be fisticuffs. You'd dig your heels in, right? You'd be like, I'll stand for that. Take me out. They knew the best way to come at you was to start by just saying, just do it our way. Just our rhythms. Why you gotta be such a legalist? Don't miss it. Dr. Keller is right. What made the king furious was not their worship of Adonai. What made the king furious was that they wouldn't adopt Babylonian rhythms. As Daniel's standing there, I wonder, in the fiery furnace. This is the part most people preach on, right? And Daniel will actually have a life of staying committed. All the way down to even the food that he eats will not be the Babylonian way. You remember his story? That prayer that those boys would have had woven into their heart. Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad ve'ahavta Adonai Elohecha bechol lavecha uvechol nefshecha uvechol me'odeha. The Lord is our God, and the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, nefshecha, and with all your might, me'odeha. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego would not let go of making God and godly rhythms first. And his whole journey in exile is going to throw him in a fiery furnace. It's going to make people be angry with him. It's going to land him in a den of lions. Not because he worships one of the many gods that are present, but because he refuses to stop living like an actual committed Hebrew person. Here are my questions. I want you to think about this idea. Go now 600-ish years after Daniel. And the people of God are in exile in a different kind of sense yet again. And they're longing for a Messiah to come. They want somebody to be the rescuer. But are you ready for this? The version of what Messiah means has been so tainted by the culture that they are in. And so Rome had a definition of what a conquering king would look like, what he would do, how he would act, the way that he would take power back. And the Jewish people are so heavily influenced yet again by the cultures that they've been in that they have a preconceived idea of what Jesus should be and should look like. And then on Palm Sunday, Jesus rides in on a donkey instead of a war horse. And his conquering is going to be the conquering of sin through charity on a cross. And these people have become so blind to what the Messiah is actually going to do. The very group that cheered for him marching in is going to want him crucified because they've been shaped not to see it. I just want to ask this. And again, I'd encourage you, if you've not read Counterfeit Gods by Timothy Keller, you should. Yeah, you will never turn on your TV the same way again. Your lived rhythms, my friends, your lived rhythms will either reinforce your beliefs or will slowly erode and confuse them. Your lived rhythms will either reinforce your beliefs or slowly erode and confuse them. Your lived rhythms. And now, before I get to this next question, Holy Spirit, I ask in your name, you are the great counselor. Lord, even now, I believe in that upper room, when the flames of the Spirit flickered above the disciples, I believe that there is something that we take for granted today, some miraculous way in which you communicate with our hearts that we take for granted today. And I pray, I ask in your name, Holy Spirit, that you would lead this next question. As Christians, we must disciple our behavior to match our belief, or Babylon's normal behaviors will starve it. So here it is. This is it. Remember the Babylonian king. Remember, he was furious, not at their belief, but their refusal to participate in their cultural rhythms. What life rhythms have you given the enemy? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, how could you take them back? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, how could you take them back? As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. The Lord is God, and he stands alone. Here in a moment, we're going to move into family time. And if you are a part of our congregation, you know that family time, it is a part of our liturgy. We don't just dismiss church. And the reason we do that is because of the church ancient. If you go back, I mean, Dr. Jamia Lasavedo, friend of mine, we went to the Megiddo artifacts in D.C. on behalf of IW and Wesley Seminary. So fun. I was reminded yet again, Daniel was with us, I was reminded yet again how community is so central to the early church. And so when we dismiss into family time, it is in us. I do not want you to hurry out. If you got something you have to go to, grace on you. But my pressure is going to be to leave slowly. Stick around long enough that people learn your name. Choose to hang out a little longer. Turn to your neighbor and say things that would have echoed the early church. Like, how can I? That's a good idea. Oh, but Pastor Mike, it's a little bit uncomfortable. I want you to be more full, more complete, more whole than you are today. And for thousands of years, that increased Christian relationship is a part of that. And so if you would, go ahead and stand to your feet. And I want to encourage you this week as we enter into Holy Week, have in your mind, have in your heart, first of all, invite someone to church. I love preaching the gospel, just a good old school gospel message. Jesus Christ is King. I love doing it. I would love to share the gospel even with your friends and family. So make sure to come next week. Remember, we have 3 service times. Good. I'd love for you to come, 9:30 and 11. But even as we enter into Holy Week, be thinking about, where is God calling you to take back spiritual ground when it comes to your rhythms? Where in your time and your life rhythms is God prompting your heart to go, I'm giving this back to the King of Kings? If you would, reach out your hands again like you're receiving a gift. Let's remember Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and what they said to the king who demanded their rhythms, the permission to worship all the other gods and the rhythms. Let's listen to Daniel's, the 3 guys ultimately, but Daniel's response. Oh, Nebuchadnezzar, receive this word. We have no need to answer you in this matter. If this be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But if not, be it known to you, O king, that we will not serve your gods, and then the Hebrew's important here, or worship the golden image that you have set up. Our life rhythms belong to the Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad, to the Lord our God who is one. Lord, even right now, I pray that you would, I believe we've already seen, we're in post-modernity. God, I believe in my heart, we've already seen that the ways of man can't make hearts whole to the fullest. We are designed by you to run on you alone. And I pray today, even in this room, that you would raise up the courage of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you would put in the hearts of people here a desire to, in a sense, put a flag in the ground and say, as for me and my house, me and my home, me and my heart, we will serve the Lord. I do believe, God, God, that you are calling up a generation of people that do their faith in a different way than the passive give in to culture generations that maybe have even gone before us and maybe even I've participated in. I do believe that you are raising up more Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, old and young, a new generation of Christian, I believe that you are bringing into play. And God, I ask in your name that you would give us a wisdom and an insight that can see through the schemes of the enemy. And honestly, Daniel is exactly right. Even if they don't survive the fiery furnace, that day they would be with the Lord of Lords. And there is nothing that Nebuchadnezzar can do to take away their future wholeness. Let us walk in that confidence too. In your name, God. Amen. All right, so be courageous. Let's retake that rhythm of just turning to your neighbor and saying, how can I? Let's go. You are dismissed. Let's go. I sound like I'm talking kids now. I don't know. You're sent. Turn to your neighbor. How can I pray for you? 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 How can I pray for you?